Welcome to the In Shape Fitness Show and Happy New Year. I'm Coach Kim Watkins, and today's podcast is called Resolute in 2019, Pacing and Outcomes. 2019 is off with a bang. Did you set some New Year's resolutions? And you're probably, I asked the question, are you stressing out about what comes next? But I know the answer already, which is of course you are. We all are. I was in the car yesterday driving back to New York City from where I grew up in Virginia and listening to and getting frustrated with actually some reliable political podcasts that I listen to. And I couldn't believe that they spend the entire time talking about and then interviewing other speakers talking about what their New Year's resolutions were. And of course, it was a little bit of everything. It wasn't just about health and fitness, but I heard a lot about, going to the gym more. Someone actually said going to the gym less, which I thought was interesting. Talking about, eating less, eating fewer cookies and cakes or things, eating less or more nutritious food, drinking less soda, drinking less coffee, various, smoking less. And then there was the weight loss goals that I heard a couple of times, all very, honorable, laudable goals for sure. And one thing that's tricky about New Year's resolutions is that we don't really have a good specter for how to set a really specific goal that is realistic based on your expectations for action orientation, right? Your expectations to do the things that will lead you towards the success of that goal. So when I talk to clients that I work with at In Shape Fitness and or other people around me, I always talk about having sort of two outlooks with regard to New Year's resolutions. One is taking a microscope to little tiny things, some little tiny thing, even if it's just one little teeny tiny thing that you can do every single day or at a point during the day, every single day. That is something specific and measurable that may make a huge difference over time. And then the second thing is to zoom way, way out to the wide angle lens of your life and start thinking about a bigger, longer term orientation, like a resolution that would really make a difference in the kind of person that you want to be, the kind of life that you want to live on the longer term basis. And these are things like buying a house, publishing a book, running a marathon, maybe things that might take a whole year, right? It's okay if it takes a whole year because it's a goal and you want it to be something that makes a difference. So both of those things are really important. I'm not real big on people just saying they want to go to the gym, 3 times a week. That isn't motivating. What is the purpose of it? When you really need to know what it is that you're driving at, what you want at the end of the action to be able to measure, and that's not necessarily going to give you what you want. However, and we're going to start talking about this in just a couple of minutes because I do have the subheader for this podcast is pacing and outcome orientation or outcomes. And the pacing part, when we're really going to talk today about those microscopic goals or resolutions that you can make. One thing that is a really, it's a reality, and sometimes it's difficult for people to sort of think about because you can't see the changes happening when you deal with such small adjustments. But that small-minded sort of microscopic pacing is the thing that helps drive habit change. And the quality of your life is based on the habits that accumulate through your hours, days, months, and years, over years. So unfortunately, a lot of the changes that you want do take some time. And when you can focus in on the little microscopic changes that you can take every single day or make every single day, you may not see them every single day, but over the course of the year, you are going to start feeling and seeing the changes big time. So I want you right now to do something called a postural system check. Also, I'm going to tell you about a couple of my goals, which I think is not as silly as listening to political people talk about their health goals. I have health goals, and I'm in the health industry, so you can be sure that I don't set a health goal without planning a way to get to that goal. And I do have, two sort of goals, one main one and then one sort of side one. And we're going to do that in just a little bit as well. But the postural systems check is something that you can be doing as you listen to me, as I talk to you about the orientation of your microscopic goals and your pacing. And the postural systems check is the way we always begin our podcasts, and it has to do with your ability to take advantage of, to really make use of the biology and the chemistry going on inside of your body at every given moment of your life, every day. You inhale air and you exhale air. Your body wants oxygen because oxygen is needed in the bloodstream to shoot out to your soft tissues, to your muscles and ligaments and tendons for you to be able to function, and to your organs for you to function. Likewise, the body doesn't have any use for carbon dioxide. So you exhale carbon dioxide. Right? You learn this in probably elementary school, if not for sure, middle school biology. We inhale oxygen, we exhale carbon dioxide. Plants do the opposite. Why it's so important to think about the environment in every single thing that we do. And in 2019, one of my company-specific goals has to do with relating more the fitness industry to the carbon footprint of our work, our body of work as fitness professionals, and how we can help sustainably stay fit without so much waste. And I don't want to go off on a tangent in terms of the industry, the gyms and the carbon footprint of running treadmills and various other things, but be rest assured that at some point during the year I'm going to be talking about that quite a bit more. So with your oxygen carbon dioxide transfer, inhaling through your mouth, which I see a lot of people doing all the time. Your mouth is slightly agape. You're not really focusing on inhaling because, it takes mental energy to do that. So when you inhale through your mouth, you activate a part of your brain that is primitive. And I watch marathon training, marathon neophyte runners training for the marathon or half marathon, anyone out in the park in Central Park. I was actually just out there a few minutes ago. You see this all the time. People are exercising and their mouth is open. They're getting air in through their mouths, and that activates the primitive part of the brain. Now, what happens when you activate the sympathetic part of your brain is that it's the fight or flight kick in, the trigger for your heart rate to increase and for stress hormones to be secreted in order for you to activate your body in flight or fight. And that might be great for a lion on the savannah, but it's not really good for your sedentary human body. What you want to do is remain calm, especially in our stress-infused society. Try to inhale through your nose, which keeps that sympathetic nervous system at bay. It helps keep your executive brain running at the steering wheel, where you're able to control your heart rate and where you're able to secrete hormones on a more sort of relaxed level. So you're inhaling through your nose, you're exhaling through your mouth. That's called a postural systems check, or part of the postural systems check, because when you are inhaling deeply and activating your lungs, you're breathing deeply, you push your shoulders back a little bit, that opens up your chest and helps your lung capacity even more. It also tightens up your tummy muscles a little bit, pulls the belly button in towards your spine a little bit, and maybe you sit up a little bit taller if you're sitting in a chair, and that means maybe your feet go to the floor, and instead of sitting cross-legged, which is really bad for your circulation and for the balance between the sides of your body, your right hip versus your left hip, and legs, and so on. So maybe you sit up a little bit taller and you think about where your body is in space. Now, if you're standing, you obviously do this as well. The other thing is you want to think about where your head is. One of the very few exercises that I'm going to mention to you as a significant contributor to a microscopic health goal has to do with the strength of your neck. And that is because your head is heavy. It's a heavy piece of equipment. Most people, I do this sometimes. I give them a medicine ball, and an 8-pound medicine ball is actually pretty difficult for people to move. And, let's just say, wood chops or canoe twisting or just holding it up and holding it while you do squats or something like that. But guess how much your head weighs? 10 to 11 pounds. And if you give someone a 10 to 11 pound ball, they're going to really think you're kind of kooky if you're expected to do some exercises with it. Yet everybody walks around with this heavy piece of equipment. So when you wake up in the morning, you're still lying in your bed. Well, one of the things that you could do as you're lying in your bed is a couple of stretches before you stand up at all, right? So just your typical, pretend to be a cat, open up your arms, stretch your arms above your head, touch your toes, sit in child's pose, anything that feels good and sort of accordion-like moves the spine and twists the body a little bit is all good, unless you, of course, have medical conditions, in which case you just want to talk to your medical professionals first before you dive into any of that. But one of the things that you can do is lie supine with your head facing your ceiling and strengthen the muscles in your neck before you get out of bed. So you lift your head and you tuck your chin to your head. Now, you may say to yourself, I'm like 30 years old. I can do boot camps. I can, run a 5K. I don't need to do this sort of thing. I get up, I go to the shower, I go to the office, then I go and do my workouts later in the day. Okay, that's fine. But as you get older, I know this because it happened to me. When you get older, your body begins to need so much repair during the sleep period of your life that you wake up in pain because your body is so tight. Now, part of that is overall body composition and weight. Part of it is nutrition, and part of it is the quality of your sleep. But part of it is your body's ability to properly relax and repair itself during sleep, and then for you to wake up feeling invigorated. If you begin each day with some level of tightness or pain and suffering, then there are morning moves that will make a difference, especially if you have a high stress job and you sit at a desk all day. So if you wake up and you take 5 to 10 minutes before you jump in the shower, before you head off to school or work, and even if you're younger, it's a really great way to start the day. And yeah, then go do your boot camps at the end of the day. We're only talking about a couple of minutes here. And you don't get a significantly greater sleep if you hit the snooze button. I mean, we're talking about a snooze button length worth of time. So you lift your head and tuck your chin to your chest. That exercise performed 15 to 20 times. I do everything 21 times. So when I wake up, I do this exercise 21 times in conjunction with some other things that I do 21 times every single morning. No matter what else I'm doing, I get up and I have a little ritual. I tend to watch some of the crazy news in the morning while I'm doing this exercise regimen, or sometimes I watch the funny news from the previous night, like one of the late shows, or Comedy Central or something like that, just to get a giggle on before I have to take seriously my life. But it's a really important thing that you can make happen every single day. The other small thing, very microscopic orientation that you can add to your day is performing one exercise while you brush your teeth. In the morning, if you're brushing your teeth before bed, I wouldn't want you to get your heart rate back up. And you might want to stretch a little bit as you get ready to go to bed. But if you spend the 2 minutes brushing your teeth that you're supposed to spend every single morning, then you can spend 2 minutes doing squats. Why not? What else are you going to do while you're brushing your teeth? You don't need to stand in front of the mirror, technically speaking. I mean, you might check in on the mirror just to see if you have gotten something in between your teeth or whatever. But you can stand in your bathroom, sit down into an imaginary chair, or just sit down, put the toilet seat down and sit down on the toilet and stand back up on the toilet. How do you do a squat? That's really, really good, because you want to make sure they're high quality ones, right? You don't want to just lower down and lift up, build all that momentum, and then you're not benefiting necessarily from the time that you spend. But if you sit into an imaginary chair with your feet straight and then you stand back up, thinking about the squeeze on your butt muscles just as much as the contraction and elongation of your quad muscles, you're going to help your body load the spine and interact with gravity such that your cellular respiration, so way down at the even more microscopic level, what's going on inside of your body, in the individual trillions of individual cells that call your body home. All of that work with gravity helps stimulate the processes inside of the cells that are your metabolism. Really, really important. So the pacing of your New Year's resolutions at the microscopic level is to pick a single thing and do it every single day. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about this probably for the month of January, and I will come back to it. I tend to do things on a quarterly basis, so I will always revisit how we started the year sometime in late March, and then I talk about it again as we begin the summer. I always talk about it again as we hit the beginning of the school year. I'm a public school parent, so I have a lot of resetting that goes on in my world in terms of the beginning of the school year, and then of course we hit the holidays and go back to January again. But when you start with this one little tiny thing, and this is only, what is today? Today is January 2nd. And that means that you have the entire year, which means that if you pick one little teeny tiny thing that you do every single day, just this week, between today, tomorrow, Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday, I'm going to do another podcast next week. And once we get to the second week of the year, we're going to start talking about how we can slightly increase either the number of things that you do or the amount of time that you spend in your effort to microscopically adjust your movement patterns. And I will only talk to you about things that you should be doing in the morning. I'm happy to talk with you about big workouts. It is a really, significant part of my life. And now I'll tell you a little bit about my marathon strategy for the year myself. I've never done this before, so I'm actually pretty excited. I have set only one resolution, two resolutions. One health resolution this year related to my own body. The other health resolution relates to the company. But my personal resolution is to run 2 marathons this year. I've run a bunch of marathons, but only one in any given year. In fact, more often than not, more than 1 year has passed in between the marathons because of motherhood and running a business and various other things. But this year I turned 50. And so I've committed myself to one marathon before I turn 50 in July, and then another marathon after I turn 50. And that is going to be my health goal for the year. And those are, for me, because I've already run marathons, they're not as significant as maybe somebody who's never run a marathon. But marathon training is always a really big commitment. It's a really important, all-consuming, not meaning you can't live your life, otherwise, but it really does take a strategic plan, a schedule. It takes really significant commitment in terms of making sure that you rest well and making sure that you eat well in order to get through an experience that will tax your body significantly. And I don't really love the distance. I more love the half marathon distance, actually, because it's only 2 hours worth of time and a load on the body versus the really significant 26.2 miles with the marathon. But that's my sort of big picture goal for the year. And it's important to have something really big that you would like to achieve during the year. But, and we're talking about the wide angle, sort of zoomed out, big impact New Year's resolution that you can set. You should pick something, just one thing though. Don't do multiple things. So pick one health related thing and make it a big thing so that you can get excited about it and happily get in touch with me and my team if you have questions about how to set a strategic plan for it. But you definitely need to make sure that once you set that big goal, that you have a month by month outcome orientation sort of sub goals that you can look at and sort of evaluate as these first few weeks get started in the month of the year of 2019. The second goal that I have is to finish or publish rather 2 books. I don't know why 2 seem to be a theme for me right now, but I finished writing 1 book in 2018. That was my big achievement of the year, was that I finished writing a draft of my very first book called Darwin on the Treadmill. I've talked about it on this podcast. I'll continue talking about it. It's at a professional editor is looking at it right now, and will be getting it back to me, and hopefully it'll be on the bookshelves at some point here very soon. But I started writing a second book, and I want both of those books to get published. And the second book is about, I don't have a title for it yet, but it's about the fitness industry, and about sexism and gender power in the exercise industry. So you'll be looking for that a little bit later once I come up with a clever title. All right, let's finish up here with just a couple of other small anecdotal but very significant issues or significant adjustments that you can make during your day, going back to those microscopic things that you can be doing in your morning, things that you should be able to do. And I talked a little bit about how I do each of the exercises that I do 21 times. I think I mentioned this. And the reason that I do 21 of everything, and I picked 5 exercises that I always do in the morning, is because of the Tibetan monks that made, it's named for the Tibetan monks. It's called the 5 Tibetans. And one of the 5 Tibetans is that chin tuck, the lift of the head and the tuck of the chin. Now, in the official 5 Tibetan move, they also lift both legs at the same time as they tuck the chin to the chest. I do that as well in the mornings, and I do that on my living room floor, not my bed. But the other thing that is really fun to do is something called the dynamic dog. And it's just a downward facing dog and an upward facing dog in a fluid dynamic motion. So you go from downward dog to upward dog and back and forth. And the reason I mention this exercise is because, and it's something that you can do. This is my family thinks I'm a little bit kooky because I exercise all over the place. If you see me or see anyone probably standing on a subway platform doing silly exercises like the forward reach or lunges or just standing on one leg, that's probably me, because I will pick anywhere and everywhere to just drop into an exercise. In my apartment in New York, what I do is I tend to exercise a little bit in the living room, and then I know I'm aching for my first cup of coffee, and so I end up in the kitchen, and that's where I end up doing the dynamic dog, where you go from downward dog to upward facing dog. And I do that in the kitchen because I'm waiting for the coffee to finish. So I put the coffee on, and then right there in the floor, I do that exercise. And then as I'm brushing my teeth, I'm always either standing on one leg, which is actually more often what I do than doing squats, or I'm doing squats in the bathroom as I am brushing my teeth. So these are little tiny things that you can do. The other thing that you can practice, and this is important and probably really germane to people who listen in who have little kids. You spend a lot of time picking things up off of the floor. Getting down to the floor and getting back up off the floor is something that you, as on a microscopic level, you can think about and practice every single day, the way that you pick something up off the floor. And if you get it right, you will feel it. If you get it wrong, if you bend over, there was actually a podcast just about this subject. A reporter went overseas and had just happened to notice that people all over the world pick things up and squat down to the floor in a way that is a hinge of the hips. It's a lowering of the body straight down versus this bending over position that American adults tend to take when we pick things up off the floor. So lowering your body straight down and tapping the floor with your fingers, and then standing back up properly. Again, like with the squat, squeezing your butt muscles and pressing your heels into the floor is a way to interact with gravity, which stimulates the processes on the inside of your body at the cellular level that will help build these little tiny efficiencies that you will end up seeing an impact as you proceed through the month. So give all of that a little bit of a try, and I will be back next week with another podcast with the In Shape Fitness Show. Have a great day and Happy New Year.